Measure Theory, Lecture 1. In this lecture, we will see three things. First, the Riemann integral behaves badly under some natural limiting processes. Second, the Lebesgue integral is built from level sets and simple functions. Third, not every subset of R can be assigned a reasonable length. The guiding idea is the following. Riemann, partition the domain. Lebesgue, partition the range. The Dirichlet function is defined by d of x equals 1 if x belongs to Q and 0 if x belongs to R minus Q. It is bounded, but it is not Riemann integrable on any interval from A to B. Let Q be an enumeration without repetition, R1, R2, R3, and so on, and define f sub n of x by f sub n of x equals 1 if x equals r sub n and 0 otherwise. Each f sub n is Riemann integrable on every interval from A to B, since it is non-zero at only one point. Therefore, the integral from A to B of f sub n of x dx equals 0, and the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of the integrals from A to B of f sub n of x dx also equals 0. But pointwise we have d of x equals the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of f sub n of x. So even though every term is Riemann integrable, the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of the integrals from A to B of f sub n of x dx is not equal to the integral from A to B of the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of f sub n of x dx, because the function on the right-hand side is not Riemann integrable. This shows that in general, the Riemann integral does not allow us to interchange infinite summation and integration, even for non-negative functions. Now define g sub n of x equals 1 if x belongs to the set R1, R2 up to R sub n and 0 otherwise. Then each g sub n is again Riemann integrable on every interval from A to B, and the integral from A to B of g sub n of x dx equals 0. Moreover, the sequence g sub n is bounded and increasing, and d of x equals the limit as n tends to infinity of g sub n of x. Hence the limit as n tends to infinity of the integral from A to B of g sub n of x dx is not equal to the integral from A to B of the limit as n tends to infinity of g sub n of x dx. We have just seen two failures of the Riemann theory. It behaves badly with infinite sums, and it behaves badly with pointwise increasing limits. The basic idea of the Lebesgue theory is to define the integral in a way that is much better suited to limiting processes. Also note that g sub n equals the sum from k equals 1 to n of f sub k, and f sub n equals g sub n minus g sub n minus 1, where g sub 0 is identically 0. Riemann integral versus Lebesgue integral. The picture illustrates the contrast between the 2 points of view, partitioning the domain versus partitioning the range. On the left, in the Riemann picture, we partition the x-axis. On the right, in the Lebesgue picture, we partition the y-axis. Lebesgue integral. Instead of slicing the graph vertically, we group together the points where the function takes values in the same range of heights. If f is greater than or equal to 0, and E sub I is the set of all x in the interval from A to B, such that y sub I minus 1 is less than f of x, and f of x is less than or equal to y sub I, then we approximate the integral from below by the sum from I equals 1 to n of y sub I minus 1 times m of e sub I, where m of e sub I should represent the length of the set e sub I. A simple function on a set x is a function defined on all of x whose range is finite. A simple function is the analog of a step function in Lebesgue theory. The difference is that the relevant pieces need not be intervals. They can be arbitrary measurable sets. If E is a subset of x, then chi sub E of x equals 1 if x belongs to E, and 0 if x does not belong to E. This is called the characteristic function of E. Every characteristic function is simple. Conversely, every simple function is a finite linear combination of characteristic functions. If the range of phi is the set of distinct values c1 through c sub n, and e sub k is the set of all x in x such that phi of x equals c sub k, then phi equals the sum from k equals 1 to n of c sub k chi sub e sub k. This is called the standard representation of phi. These pictures illustrate the idea of approximating a non-negative function from below by simple functions. Phi 1 is less than or equal to phi 2, is less than or equal to ... and this increases to f. What should measure do? We want a notion of length that extends the usual length of intervals. If such a measure is denoted by m, then we would like the following properties. Normalization. M of the interval from 0 to 1 equals 1. Monotonicity. If A is contained in B, then M of A is less than or equal to M of B. Countable additivity. For pairwise disjoint sets E sub n, M of the disjoint union of the E sub n equals the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of M of E sub n. Translation invariance. If E sub t is the set of all x plus t such that x belongs to E, then M of E sub t equals M of E. Can we measure every subset of R? Unfortunately, the answer is no. We now sketch the classical obstruction. Define an equivalence relation on the interval from 0 to 1 by x is equivalent to y if and only if x minus y belongs to Q. Choose a set A contained in the interval from 0 to 1, containing exactly one representative from each equivalence class. Let S equals the interval from -1 to 1 intersected with Q. For each R in S, define A sub R to be the set of all x plus R such that x belongs to A. Then the family A sub R for R in S is pairwise disjoint. Indeed, if some point belonged to both A sub R and A sub S, then two different elements of A would differ by a rational number, which is impossible since A contains only one representative from each equivalence class. Every point of the interval from 0 to 1 belongs to one of these translates. In fact, If y belongs to the interval from 0 to 1, then there exists a unique x in A such that y minus x belongs to Q. Because x and y both belong to the interval from 0 to 1, we also have y minus x belongs to the interval from minus 1 to 1 intersected with Q, which is S. Therefore, the interval from 0 to 1 is contained in the disjoint union over R in S of A sub R. On the other hand, each A sub R is contained in the interval from minus 1 to 2, so the disjoint union over R in S of A sub R is contained in the interval from minus 1 to 2. Suppose that A were measurable, then every translate A sub R would also be measurable, and by translation invariance, M of A sub R equals M of A for every R in S. Since the sets A sub R are pairwise disjoint, countable additivity gives M of the disjoint union over R in S of A sub R equals the sum over R in S of M of A sub R equals the sum over R in S of M of A. But we also have the following chain of inequalities. M of the interval from 0 to 1 equals 1, and this is less than or equal to M of the disjoint union over R in S of A sub R, which is less than or equal to M of the interval from minus 1 to 2, and that equals 3. Why is this impossible? There are only two possibilities. If M of A equals 0, then the sum over R in S of M of A equals 0. So the union would have measure 0, contradicting the fact that M of the interval from 0 to 1 equals 1. If M of A is greater than 0, then the sum over R in S of M of A equals plus infinity. So the union could not be contained in a set of measure 3. Therefore, A is not Lebesgue measurable. Summary. Today we saw the basic motivation for the Lebesgue integral. The Riemann integral is not well behaved under some natural limiting processes. The Lebesgue integral starts from measure and simple functions. And we also saw that not every subset of R is measurable. Next time, we will begin the precise construction of Lebesgue measure and of the Lebesgue integral.